Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show with myself, Stephen Brown, and joining me as ever to discuss all things Leeds United in a huge week. It is, of course, Mr. Jason Booker. Here we are, Jay. We're back.
We're here again, mate. We're here
again. We're here again. We'll be here again. Yeah, we'll be here again in a couple of days as well. We're going to have a busy week out with all these games coming up. I just want to say, before we get started, like the video, subscribe to the channel, get your comments in as well. Hope everyone's had a fantastic Christmas. It's been a very good Christmas and a very good December for Leeds United, unbeaten in December, as me and Jay found out on the last stream. Jay, I think this pretty much sums up about how we're kind of feeling, particularly about one man at the moment. That's Joe Rodon to DCL as he came off after bagging another goal, and he's capturing all the headlines as he should. Mine and Jay's full review of the Sunderland game is up on the channel as well, so if you do want to check that out, please do. But Jay, a couple of days on from that result against Sunderland, and I feel like Leeds are getting the headlines now that they weren't getting earlier in the season. Obviously, you know, if you're not winning many football games, that's kind of what's happening. But I feel, especially with the goal that Leeds scored at the weekend, you can start to see a kind of ripple now. And, you know, people are waking up. Slightly frustrating for me, though, Jay. I'm hearing it everywhere. I was listening to some football podcasts, touched on it at the weekend, is this idea that all of a sudden it's, you know, from the Man City second half. And yes, we changed formations and, you know, things have clicked, but this idea we were complete write-off before that game is kind of perpetuating everywhere. But nonetheless, so be it. Huge week ahead, Jay, but we're feeling good. We're feeling confident going into these two games.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it as well. I've seen the kind of this notion and narrative poked and prodded around, and I'm not convinced that everything's sorted out by the 3-5-2. I'm not. Like, I think we've seen really good parts of this run be within the 4-2-3-1. I'm not a big XG merchant. I believe it kind of gives you an outline and it gives you a picture of how you're actually playing. Like, if you can't watch the games, if you were to spread it over the 18 games so far and have a look at the XG, it will tell you which way the games are going, you know, the flow of the games. It gives you an idea, it gives you a picture. And the facts are is that we're the fourth most successful team on an XG spectrum throughout the whole of the season. That tells you that even when the points weren't coming, that we were doing things that we should have been happy about. And that is what me and you were coming on week after week and saying, even when the results and the points weren't landing, the fact that we were being able to be competitive within a Premier League setting was really it gave us optimism. It was something to be happy about. Yes, you need the points when you're down there. I do see that this is both sides. That you can't just carry on when the XG is saying one thing, but the points aren't coming. I get that as well. But this, I don't think. I mean, some of the bigger results, Chelsea, Liverpool, are maybe a bit of a shock, but I don't think it's a massive shock. I really don't. I think the level of performance throughout the whole season has kind of pointed us towards this happening. But as I came on and said week after week, we didn't really have the stomach as a fan base for a difficult, horrible relegation grindy battle. And I think the results have now helped us be able to have that a little bit more. It'll be interesting to see if it does flip back the other way, whether we kind of lose our minds and it all goes back. But at the moment, because the points are starting to come, the substance of Ellen Road has really driven us on as well. So it's a really interesting one. Really interesting.
Well, yeah, I agree completely. It will be interesting because the likelihood is we are going to go on a stinker of a period again.
Yeah.
But I think I'm hoping that this run and the way we're playing and how things have worked, that maybe we can, back ourselves a little bit more. Afternoon, Gavin. Hope you're okay, mate. Hope you had a good Christmas. I hope we can back ourselves a little bit more if we do get into a sticky patch and not kind of think the world is over if we lose a couple of games. Because look, things can turn quickly, Jay. I mean, West Ham have got Brighton tonight. I will be tuning into that one and watching it eagle-eyed. If they win that, they've got Wolves the game after. If they win that, then suddenly, and Leeds lose the next couple of games, which is more than feasible. All of a sudden, it's very much back in the balance, and that then points advantage goes. But look what we've done already. Look where we are. We can do it again. We know we can produce results. We know there's confidence in the side and there's a belief in what Daniel Farke was doing. I mean, I was looking at the table. I mean, if you're talking about points per game, I mean, if we get 10 points over the next 10 games and we've got 30 points with 8 games to go, you would really be confident that we're home and hosed almost. You know, West Ham have got a long way to catch up, especially in the form and the atmosphere that they're in at the minute.
Well, they'd have to double and a bit more the points total that they've got so far just to even get on parity with us.
Yeah.
And that doesn't look like happening. So, yeah, you're absolutely spot on. Again, the 1 point per game thing has been bandied around a lot this season, and it's an absolute fair reflection of where we want to be. I think 38 points now. I weren't so sure earlier on in the season. I was kind of a little bit like, oh, yeah, take the gamble. But I think 38 points will be completely comfortable now. You know, teams lose a lot of games in the Premier League unless you are one of the very, very best sides. Crystal Palace have just lost 3 on the bounce. It happens all the time, and it will happen to Brentford, Brighton, Bournemouth. Look at Bournemouth, 10 games without a win. Bournemouth now. You know, and not only that, they've stunk the place out on a couple of occasions as well. They've drawn with West Ham at home. They've got battered by Brentford at the weekend. You know, again, we made the point that we went to Brentford last weekend, and all of a sudden Brentford were crap, and then they go and beat Bournemouth 4-1 at home. So, you know, an established Premier League team in Wolves sat on 2 points after 18 games. Browney, 2 points. You know, there is a world in which that would be a recently promoted team. Yeah. And it could have been us. You know what I mean? And we are literally miles and miles and miles beyond that. So I really think that, I was saying this when we were in the bottom 3, and I'm saying it again now, we really should be very content with how this season has gone. Really, really content.
Yeah, indeed. We've said this before. As Gav says here, Agent Gio tonight. Yeah, that's what we'll be looking. Will you be watching that game, Eagle Eye, Jay? Will you be tuning in West Ham Brighton, or are you just going to have a kind of? Because I know there's a few games on tonight, isn't there? Has it got to the stage where you're looking at our rivals and kind of keeping one eye on it?
I would be watching it usually, but I'm actually not in tonight. I'm playing football 8 till 9. But I will be making sure that I catch back up with it. I watch any football that's on, really. I tend to watch it. And yeah, you kind of gravitate towards the ones that mean the most to you in terms of what's going to influence where you are in the table and stuff. I actually think the Premier League's been a really good product to watch this season as well. I think it's been exciting. It's been entertaining. There's so much going on. You know, even the battle right at the top, Arsenal kind of are just getting over the line most weeks, but they don't look great. Man City look like they've got good form. Then there's this equation with Villa, and are they going to manage to kind of keep up? The battle for the top 4, the battle for the relegation is really hot. Like, it's super, super interesting. I don't think that any of the teams in the bottom half will feel too comfortable. Yeah. You know, Spurs beat Palace at the weekend, and they really needed to win that game because there were 2 points in front of us. And they would have been looking over their shoulder had they lost to Palace. Yeah. Thomas Frank would have been under extreme pressure if he'd have lost that game. And I think the same applies for a lot of the teams in and around there. Bournemouth, certainly. Forest and West Ham, obviously, are massively in it. I thought Forest would be safe by now. No, maybe not safe, but I thought there'd be 6-7 points between them and the bottom 3. You know, they're still right in it. So, yeah, it's super, super interesting.
It's fascinating. And I think the thing is, I mean, like I've said, it's feasible that we can lose the next couple of games, and it might even be bad scorelines. We don't know. And then it's where are people's heads going to be at then? We know there's going to be content creators out there where if that happens, it's doom and gloom. It's the end of the world. Something needs to change. What we're going to do in January, all that kind of kicks into a hard game. I think I'm surprised now as a fan base, we are more used to the potential fluctuations in what can happen to a football team and a manager and the progression of the club. I'm really surprised that when we've been watching, I used to be like that. I used to be very kind of reactive on Twitter, getting those opinions out about players and all that. I'm just surprised because, obviously DCL was written off by a large proportion of the fan base. And look, there's arguments that were there that you could go, yeah, but we understand. But I think there has to be admittance, and I'm talking about big content creators as well. There has to be admittance that you've just got that one wrong, and you may get stuff wrong in the future, and you can't be too wedded to something in this game because it can come back around and bite you in the ass. You know, I mean, look at Farker himself, you know, almost felt like he was going to the brink and he's turned it around. Nobody would have thought that. DCL now, the most informed striker, you know, up there with nearly bloody Erling Haaland. You know, it's crazy. And you know, football just continues to surprise. So I really hope, Jay, if it goes wrong in the next 2 games, or if we enter another sticky patch, people can just go, oh yeah, this happened before and we were fine. We might not be fine, but at the end of the day, there's so many variables to it.
There's a couple of things with it. I mean, I think people are just far too wedded to an opinion, which then becomes an agenda. They can't help but have that evolution happen. You know, they made this statement once, so that's it. And I'm going to stand on with that because otherwise I look and feel stupid. But that's just not the reality. You know, me and you have both come on here, and we, after the playoff final, we've mentioned it before, we both said we'd be happy to see him move on. And we were both wrong. Yep. We were both massively, massively wrong. And we came on during last season and said, you know, we got it so wrong. And Daniel Farker proved so many critics wrong last season and achieved so much. That's just being self-aware. It's just being in touch with a bit of reality. You know, I'll give you another dose of reality as well. The 2 teams that have made big managerial changes this season, during the season, because it's actually happened a lot less this season than I expected. You see a lot of sackings usually up and down the league. It's not happened a lot this season. The 2 that have made big changes, Nottingham Forest and West Ham, are both still massively in the shit.
And West Ham did it, in the Wolves did it.
We're going to mention Wolves as well, but Wolves are kind of, I mean, they could not sack him. I understand why Wolves ended up sacking their manager. But, you know, we were in the same realms as probably as a West Ham with Daniel Farker, and we stuck with him, and we have seen the fruits of them labour. Now, you could argue on the flip of that, well, Burnley have stuck with Scott Parker, and it's not got better. But you know what, guys? 3 teams have to finish in the bottom 3. They have to. It's a physical impracticality that not everybody can get it right. Yeah, so somebody has to finish in the bottom 3, and the facts are is Burnley are one of the worst 3 teams in the division. Wolves are one of the worst 3 teams in the division. And Leeds United are one of the worst 5, I would say. That's just my opinion. And right now, I think we're overachieving. And part of that overachievement comes from Daniel Farker. And you could argue West Ham and Forest are underachieving. But as a consequence, we're then making the most of that. You know? Yeah. It's hard to actually kind of quantify who is the worst 3 teams in the division, because you will just always make the case that, well, the league table doesn't lie. I don't think it's as linear as that.
No.
You know, I think, you know, if you look through history, you'll see teams that on paper should have finished in the bottom 3 in terms of ability, manager ability, even as potential as well. But together, the sum of the parts have made that they've been able to stay up. And I think we're in that bracket right now. I'm starting to come around to the idea that maybe we're a little bit better than I was giving us credit for earlier, but I still think we're in and around that bottom 5 conversation. You know, you can only analyse the situation as you find it at the time, and the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin stepping up, Jacobi all coming in and playing really well in a back 5, Anton Stack finding proper form and showing us the play that we thought we'd signed. You know, all them kind of things coming together start to make a different version, and then you can change as you go.
100%, I agree. And I think that's where the underlying numbers from what we were doing earlier in the season painted a picture. And it you know, we were creating a lot of XG. We were unlucky several times in early games. I think that helped, you know, Farker, because you know, do you want to get rid of a manager who you're outperforming teams in so many statistics game on game? You're punching against, you know, Bournemouth and Tottenham at the time, who were riding high. Do you really want to get rid of that for what else is out there? I mean, the difference for me with the Jesse Marsh season is we were crap under Marsh.
Terrible.
We were absolutely awful under Jesse Marsh. There was nothing there saying this is going to get better. We were terrible.
Even the games we won, Browney. Yeah. The games we won were mental. Yeah. There weren't any sort of kind of rationale or organisation or structure. You actually ended up getting to the end of the game kind of like breathless, and were kind of the mindset that you were, that this has appeased the sacking for a bit. And that's what happened against Bournemouth and against Liverpool. Both of them games, really, if you go back and watch them, we didn't deserve to win either of them.
No,
the Bournemouth game was mental, crazy, and we scored with some incredible kind of individual quality. I think about the Sam Greenwood goal that we scored that day with his left foot curling in the top corner, and Somerville Nonto, the counter-attack. Like, that wasn't down to any underlying metrics that said that we deserved more 3 points. Whereas when we were losing against Villa, and we were losing against Spurs, and we were drawing against Newcastle, even some of the away performances as well. You know, Burnley wasn't great, but it wasn't as bad as people made out it was. Fulham away, you know, we actually deserved more points on the board, and we just didn't get them. That's the way that football plays out sometimes, but we actually deserved it, which tells you if you can carry that into future games, you're going to see success. Your argument back to always was, is the negativity going to creep in as a result of the bad results? And I heard it, and it made a lot of sense. But the reality of what we've seen is Daniel Farke's been able to pull this team back time and time and time again after disappointments. Yeah. You know, the run going into the Man City game, the Man City game in itself, the reaction after Manchester City, you know, we'll go and beat Chelsea 3-1 at home. The reaction after the Fulham last minute loss to the own goal. I think we went and won at home, and then we beat Wolves away. You know, like Daniel Farke has shown time and time again the man management ability to be able to bounce back, and that can't be knocked.
No, absolutely. I agree completely. And you know, it's interesting you mentioned about are we a little bit better than maybe we think, and a player who for me is underlying that is Anton Stack. I mean, you know, it's amazing again watching the wider reaction to Stack. And there was someone I was watching on TikTok, and he was saying this is a midfielder who he looks like he can do a bit of everything. So he's aerially dominant because of his size, technically gifted, the pass that sets Aronson, like, you know, he's got that in his locker. He's also a really good ball striker. You know, you really back him when he's got that chance or that position. His ball striking is absolutely bang on, and I feel like, you know, he's that kind of bar raiser, isn't he? And I think another key thing as well, Jay, is the age of the players as well. You know, I was hearing about Chelsea now, they're kind of buckling a little bit, and they've got all these young players. And I remember during the Bielsa era when we were in the Premier League, we never had like 25, 26, 27, 28-year-old players. It was all either ridiculously young or 30 and above. Whereas now it just feels like, you know, we've got kind of players who've, you know, they've got a bit about them. They've been around the block. They're not young kids anymore. They're leaders. And yeah, I mean, someone like Stack now, I mean, what value are you putting on someone like Stack? I mean, it's probably doubled from what we've signed him. And someone like him is just elevating us that little bit.
Well, the realms of the recruitment, and the recruitment's been a hot topic all summer and now all winter. You know, when we were going through the bad form, that's where everybody really were pointing towards, and I actually agreed with that. But you know, now with what we've seen over the last few weeks, you're starting to see the fruits of that kind of recruitment. You know, in that they have got resale value. They're in and around the prime. You know, Anton Stack at 26 is probably going to get better for another 2 or 3 years. Find his prime at 28, 29. And then, you know, maybe next summer we sell Anton Stack for double and a bit. Because there will be teams, if he continues to kind of grow in the way that he is, that will pay that kind of money. And then you go and reinvest it and you go again. That is the way that teams like us have to survive in the Premier League for a period of time, and the way that you build. I'd say Jacobiol's in the same kind of mould, same kind of price range, and you know, potential improvement that we've seen from a recruitment perspective to them to bring in. And there's others within the squad that's also that we didn't buy that fall into that bracket as well. Ethan Ampadu, as an example, has done his evolution to this point elsewhere, and with us now for the, you know, the couple of seasons that he's had, and he's starting to look every bit of a Premier League general midfielder that a lot of other teams would love to have. Jayden Bogle have seen massively linked to Everton over the last couple of weeks. He's another one. And this team's got, look, Gabby Goodmunson was another in the summer that has been bought in and around that age of recruitment. I mean, we were laughing, weren't we? Because I think there were something like 8 signings that were 26. something like that. It was very clear what we were doing. Noah Okafor is another great example. I mean, I'm not completely sold on him as of yet, but you can understand the potential bonus for a resale value on him if he gets it right. At 15 to 20 million, it's pretty much what you pay for a standard Premier League player nowadays, really. If he hits the heights, it'll be worth 30, 35, 40 million. You know, so you're already talking about. I mean, Calvert-Lewin's another one. I mean, if we go down, Calvert-Lewin carries on this season. If we went down, we'd still be saying we want 30, 35 million for Calvert-Lewin. Yeah, we absolutely would.
It's crazy to think, isn't it? That because it will be fascinating. I mean, if he continues in this kind of form at the end of the season, it'd be amazing to see whether we stay up or go down. Who will? You can imagine someone like Newcastle, or you could just go in and throw in the cash at it, and that'll be. I mean, for a PSR point of view, I know it'll be changing in the summer to the new one, but it's still gonna affect it.
Newcastle are a great example of somebody that'll be absolutely gutted.
I could see them going after a few of our players, Newcastle. I look at the profile like Ampadu and Stacky. You can just see them kind of fit in a Newcastle.
And Newcastle will be fuming they didn't take a chance on Calvert-Lewin. Because the homegrown quota, the English kind of bracket that he would put teams like them in, the experience at Premier League level. His goal return's not that bad either. I think he's sort of like 71 in 230, 1 in every 4. But you also have to put some context to that and remember that he's played in a team that have been fighting in and around relegation for forever. I mean, outside of a couple of seasons under Carlo Ancelotti, that Everton team have been crap. Yeah. So, and he's made the most of what he is. He's got a lot of experience. He's got 11 appearances for England. Like, this is no slouch. There'll be some serious teams above us that will be thinking, I only wish we'd have taken that opportunity, but we didn't, and we did. We took the risk of the big contract, we took the risk of the injuries, and we backed ourselves with the medical department to put it right, and we have. So, a lot has been said about the recruit. And look, Dominic Calvert-Lewin might get injured against Liverpool, and we're all losing his minds, right? Like, I get it, but the trend now is telling you that we're not going to see that. He's been injury-free now for nearly 2 years. So, the recruitment has been absolutely battered. But on the face of Mecha and Calvert-Lewin, in the way that we find ourselves right now, it was super, super smart business.
Yeah, well, yeah, absolutely. And then, you look at the fees for some of Goodmanson, 10 million?
Yeah, it's bargain.
And he, he's like a duck to water in the Premier League, and Stack, 17 million or something. It's some of it is wild, and I think it'll be interesting to see it get reappraised as the season goes on and whether we're successful. Yes, we'd have loved a little bit more stardust, but you can't have it all, can you, when you're in a tricky position?
I think Gabby's a really interesting one because I'm not completely sold on him defensively. I know we've had a conversation about that, but I love watching him going forward. And what I will say is that there'll be people that would have re-signed Junior Firpo and wouldn't have signed a left back. I mean, he is head and shoulders above Junior Firpo. Even the version that we saw in the Championship, Gabby Goodmanson is literally. Gabby Goodmanson would instantly make us in the Championship another 10 or 15 points. The guy is ridiculous going forward. And he's miles better than Firpo defensively as well, even though I've got question marks over him defensively. So, yeah, he's been a super signing, mate. And how he managed to kind of come to us is beyond me, really, because fullback is such a funny one. I reckon Gabby Goodmanson would look even better in a better team. If you put... I think Goodmanson would have looked better than Kirkes at Liverpool over the beginning of the season. I really do. I just from what was it? Because he would have so much more of the ball going forward. Yeah. He would be so much more effective. So, yeah.
Unreal. Gavin mentions here who's driving Jack to Valencia. Yes, the link is there with Valencia, Jack Harrison. What do we think? I didn't read the tweet. Was it a loan something, or was it an actual transfer? Interesting position for Jack. I mean, it's would you be doing that one if the offer's there?
Yeah, 100%. And if I were Jack, I'd be absolutely biting their hands off at it. He's barely getting off the bench now. He's got the position in which he's a squad player within this squad, which is what we said we thought he would be happy with. We would be happy with him having. What's been really surprised me, outside of the odd moment here or there with Jack, I can't believe how much he's regressed. I can't believe how different a player he looks in 2 years away at Everton. He doesn't look anywhere, and he was never sensational, but he had the capabilities of getting to the byline and whipping the ball in. He now looks like a player that's scared to death of running past players. He just don't look like he can do it. And bear in mind, he's not old. He really should be hitting his prime about now. He looks miles and miles off it. So yeah, if we can receive anything for Jack Harrison, I'd be absolutely biting your hand up. But we do need to replace. Anybody that leaves during this window has to be replaced like for like, because the squad isn't that strong that we can then fill it with, somebody else that's been waiting in the wings on the in the stands. It'd be a kid, or it'd be Sam Byram, or it'd be Bornau or Ilan Melier. You know what I mean? It's one of that's the depth after the depth. So we have to go out and replace if we're going to set. And I mean, I do think, Brownie, that one or two need to come in personally.
What kind of areas would you be thinking there?
I'd still love the 10.
Yeah.
The Buonanotte signing I really liked. The Harry Wilson that can maybe do both. I don't think either of them will be options, but I'm just giving them as an example. And I think if we're going to maintain with the 3-5-2, I would say a striker is literally imperative, because we've seen that Joel Perreault can't offer us what we thought. We both thought that he would. I really hoped that he would really spring into the Premier League, and after the Everton performance, you kind of thought that he might. But the way that the Premier League footballers kind of existed for us this season, he just doesn't suit it at all. It suits Mecha, it suits Calvert-Lewin, obviously. It suits Okafor to a point in that role, but he's having to push himself into doing things that he's not comfortable doing. We need that fourth striker, really, that can make a difference, that can actually fight for the number one spot. Calvert-Lewin and Mecha may pick up knocks. We've seen it with Mecha. So we need to, where possible, try and cover that spot. And then if I were looking at a third, I'd say centre-back if you're playing three at the back, because he doesn't trust Bornau. No. And Pascal's susceptible to an injury. And now, unfortunately, Joe Rodon's got one. And I mean, if Joe's out for 3-4 weeks, I mean, that alone would be a massive, massive problem. So, yeah, them three.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, because I know we were linked with the RB Leipzig kid, weren't we? Centre back. So we'll have to see. We'll see if that one's got legs. S.E. Kelly, all we need is plus 2.5 mil to make a PSR profit for Jack. Please God, he goes. Moving on then to business on the pitch. Huge game. New Year's Day. It's Liverpool. It's Anfield. It's 5:30. Liverpool, I mean, interesting season for them to say the least. Obviously, big expenditure in the summer, tragedy at the club as well. They're currently sat fourth in the league, pretty inconsistent. They've had a couple of wins though. They beat Wolves, but 2-1, not utterly convincing. I mean, what do you think with this one? Because when Liverpool got into their groove a bit against us at Ellen Road the other week, I was a little bit like, oh, there's levels here. It was one of the few times this season I would actually say where I was like, oh, they're a real cut above. When they were kind of slicing us, they seem to kind of, I probably credit goes to Slot, but they really found a way to kind of get around what we try to do to unsettle teams. But full credit to us, we fought us way back into that game. What do you think with this one? I mean, I'm kind of, depending on the West Ham result tonight, it'll be interesting to see how that kind of factors in. But you've got a couple of situations, Jay. Obviously, you've got 3 or 4 players on, they get one more booking, they miss the Man United game, including your wing backs, including Ampadu. So that's kind of hovering over us a little bit. Also, just fitness concerns as well. I mean, DCL, some of the midfielders, can they go big Thursday and then go big Sunday? I mean, is it an opportunity maybe for rotation? Not that you're going to kind of give up the opportunity to get something from Anfield, but do you look ahead to that game at the weekend against Man United as possibly more of an opportunity? It's a real tricky one.
Yeah, and I know exactly what you get. I mean, it's a massive conundrum, and it's what Farke's paid the big money for. What I will say is that Ellen Road, yes, they did have moments where they cut us open, but we also scored some unbelievable own goals in that game. You think about the first goal, Joe Rodon makes a huge mistake. And the second goal comes right on the back of it, and that were a mess, wasn't it, really, when you think about what happened in the back line and Perry and all the rest of it. So I think they're still there to be got at. They were really poor against Wolves, and I mean, Wolves are so bad. Yeah. They were close to getting something out of that game, Wolves, which is crazy. So I don't think Farke will look at it. I don't think he'll look at the two games together. I think he'll decide who's available and fit and ready to go on Thursday, and play a team ready for that game, and then probably do it the other way if they're not, if he needs to have fitness concerns, if he needs to have rest for the Manchester United game, he'll do it there. Because at Ellen Road, it's a bit of a different kettle of fish anyway. We've got the bit of the upper advantage with that. Now, the importance of Sunday won't be lost on him, I'm sure, but he will think about how he's going to be able to navigate getting the most points out of the two games. Yeah. I think he goes into the Liverpool game wanting to try and get something from that. He'd be happy with the point. He'd take a point right now. I know he would, because away from home, he always would. 4 points from these next two games would be absolutely massive. I can't see a world in which we get through the next two without taking a defeat.
No, I don't.
And it feels like the defeat would be more than likely in the away fixture than the home one. But you don't know. Like, you just have to play one game at a time, don't you? You have to take it one game at a time. Liverpool, I'm sure, I don't know this, but I'm sure Liverpool will have their own fitness concerns. They'll have their own suspension concerns as well. I think Jayden Bogle and Ethan Ampadu especially have balanced this yellow card situation for a while now. I'm pretty sure it's about 4 or 5 games that they've had this. So I don't think it'll make a massive impact to the way that they play. And they'll just go about it and try and, maintain composure as much as possible, stay as switched on and as ready as possible, and then hopefully not get suspension. When does it get ruled out, that? When does it get cleaned?
I think it might even be something stupid like after the Man United game. Which
is, I know.
Oh my God.
The second one against Man United then, don't you? I know it's soon, but yeah, the landscape is difficult, but it's difficult for all teams. I know Manchester United play tonight and we play Thursday, but I really don't think it matters that much.
Yeah,
I think it's a nice excuse for the team that ends up going on to lose when that kind of arises. But I don't think it's that imperative. I think these are very, very fit athletes that normally have got, they've got the best recuperation, best recovery. They'll be ready to go, and they won't need any pick-me-up for Manchester United on Sunday. They won't.
No, and we survived 46 games in the Championship. I remember Solomon playing, Saturday, Tuesday. Yeah. We did it, didn't we? We did it at that level.
And a lot of the players as well, Browney, they prefer to play games. Like if you play Thursday, they're back in training on Saturday, and they're training Saturday, Sunday. They would prefer to play another game on the Sunday, because what would happen is so they'll play Thursday, recoup Friday, they'll be in for a light training session on Saturday with a bit of recovery, and then they'll play again on the Sunday. So they actually, in terms of what their body is going through, will probably be less than if they had real intense training sessions in place. They'd prefer this. It's more entertaining for footballers to play games than it is to be out on the training pitch.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess targeting set pieces is going to be huge. That could be massive for us, couldn't it? Because they seem a bit vulnerable in that area. And with DCL and the defenders, you'd hope that we can impose ourselves that way. I guess it just depends, if you can get your deliveries spot on, if you can get into that frame we were in against Palace, where it's just everything is kind of going at it. It does seem like that could potentially be a vulnerability for Liverpool.
100%, but it's also nice that we're making a variation of the way that we're scoring goals.
Yeah.
They tend to come from out wide. Like, we do cause teams a lot of problems in them areas, whipping balls into the box.
Yeah.
But then we've got the variation of the set pieces. We've got the throw-ins. We have got a direct route through the centre to goal as well. And, I think about the chance that Brendan Aronson had at the weekend as an example. it's long to Calvert-Lewin. He does his thing, brings it down to Brendan, and basically it's a goal outside of a defender on the line. So we have got different ways to goal. We've got threat. We are a threat when we go forward. We have got creativity within the team now. It's not always through an X factor flair, but there is different ways to get at teams. Liverpool, especially, we've seen this at Ellen Road. Defensively, they're not there. They're not at it. And you're talking about two massive players in Van Dijk and Konate, who right now, both of them are all over the place most weeks when you watch them, I think. You go and watch them 3 goals that they conceded against us. They're absolute horror shows. I mean, Van Dijk is flapping around everywhere on all 3 of them. Konate obviously gives away the penalty. Like, it's a proper mess. So, yeah, they can be got at, mate. They can absolutely be got at, even at Anfield.
Yeah, indeed. And me and Jay, we will be back for a New Year's Day review of that game as well. But then Sunday, Jay, midday, it's a big game. It's the old rivals. It's Manchester United again, visiting Ellen Road. I mean, in terms of Man United, I know Gary Neville's kind of saying that the performances are looking better and brighter or whatever, but there's still a big inconsistency there. I mean, Newcastle, I think will be kicking themselves. They didn't get something from that game the other night. They had a wacky 4-4 draw with Bournemouth that was absolutely bonkers. Obviously lost to Villa as well. You'd probably argue a bit unlucky in that one. But it's just a massive, massive game, isn't it? It's just one of those, and it feels, because we're into January, we've not played them yet. It's kind of built up even more. Where do you stand on this one? Is it just pure excitement? Are you a bit nervous? Is it a mixture? How are you feeling ahead of this one?
Yeah, both. 100% both. I don't like feeding into the kind of, it's a big derby for you and whatnot.
It's a big Huddersfield Town, do you?
Yeah. It's a bigger game for Leeds than it is for Manchester United. However, it's not that big of a disparity. Manchester United hate us. And it's only because of the time apart and the way that the two clubs have gone since then that we've kind of grown a mutual kind of stalemate. Yeah, like that's kind of how I kind of put it. And they've grown new rivalries with, Manchester City. Even though they both exist within Manchester, the Manchester derby actually isn't as big as what you would think. No. I believe, from my understanding, the Liverpool game and the Leeds game are bigger than the Manchester City game. No. So they've grown new rivalries with that. They've had their own problems as well. And, they've existed in the Premier League in the way that they have for the last 10 years or so now. But this game is big. It is big. The first season we came back and we had no fans. We had the 0-0 draw at Ellen Road. It'd have been interesting to see how that one would have felt and gone had the fans have been there. Yeah. Since then, we've always been in a bad place, really, on the pitch. And it's always felt like that game has come at the wrong time for us. This one feels like it's coming as right as it has done since we last beat them at Ellen Road. When Harry Kewell scored the header, 2003, I think it was. Yeah. It's the most ready we've been for this game since then. And I'm excited by it. Like, I really, really want to win this game. I want to have the bragging rights for the first time in 25 years. Like, I'm not ashamed to say that. Like, that's how I feel about it. Like, I am super gassed by it. They're in a position in which, yes, they're slightly better than they were earlier on the season. But I think when you watch them, I don't think they're great to watch. I think they can be got at. I think the one thing that they have done outside of the Bournemouth game, I will say, but on more recent weeks is that they're defending much better. I thought against Newcastle, they defended really, really well. There were actually some real top performances back there in the defensive line. So it just makes for a great game. It makes for an exciting game. I hope we can pull this one off. I can. And I am not ashamed to say I will be lapping it up if we do.
Well, what were the 3 results we had last time in the Premier League? We had 0-0 with Bielsa, 4-2 we lost. What was the relegation season one?
At home, you're talking here.
Yeah, I can't remember that one.
Yeah, we drew 0-0 the first time. The second season was Rafinha and Rodrigo 4-2. Yeah. In the last season,
what the hell was the last one? I honest to God can't remember it at all.
I
literally have no.
We drew 2-2 at their place, didn't we? On the Scoob. I think we lost at Ellen Road. I can seem to remember Alanga scoring.
2-0 or something. Like, what the hell? Someone help us in the chat, because I cannot remember it for the life of me. I think you're right. I think we did lose. Yeah, let's get this Google, because this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. Right, okay, 25th. Right, let's show me the friendly results. Lovely.
What were it? 22-23?
Yeah, 22-23. Oh my god, it's got every result in here.
That was it.
2-0. 2-0 lost 12th of February. Yeah. Which must have just been a bit of a damp squib of a game. Yeah, I'm having a look. Yeah. God, I have no memory of that game at all. I really have no memory of that. Rashford and Garnacho
scored really late. Yeah, I remember. They scored really late. It was 0-0 to the last 10 minutes, and then Rashford scored.
Yeah,
I do vaguely remember it now.
I have got a bit of a. I absolutely agree with you. I think we're in kind of almost. If Rodon were playing, it'd be perfect. But we're almost in that perfect state and position to play him. I do have a bit of that PTSD from. I mean, certainly, I don't think I've ever been more galled than the opening day 5-1 loss that we had. It was. I think it's the number of goals we've conceded against them in that previous Premier League run was just absolutely horrendous.
Especially after he had scored that wonder goal as well. Oh. I thought when he scored, I thought, this is it. This is it. We're going to be involved.
Yeah. Oh. It was absolutely devastating, wasn't it? And it was just, I just would love a win over them. I don't want a win over them so bad.
Yeah. No, same, mate, same. I do agree on this Joe Rodon situation. No, I can't help but feel we're at a considerable disadvantage without him.
Yeah.
Especially in that game. Especially in that one. I don't know.
Cruel.
Yeah,
it's cruel.
Cruel for him too, because he's like, I know he's not a Leeds fan, I know he's not a Leeds boy, but it feels like one of us. It feels like it means a lot to him. And maybe that's just the kind of mushy fan inside me that sees that. I don't know. I don't think that's the case. I think he's a proper Leeds boy.
Liverpool apart, he doesn't make mistakes. And in these games, you need players who don't make mistakes, because that you give them any opportunity and they're gonna probably take advantage. You just want people who are safe, steady, and Joe Rodon is 100% that.
Yeah. I agree, mate. I agree. I hope we can just get through regardless. And I mean, I don't see a world in which Joe Rodon plays. No. It's
part of you think it's a part of the that's just that. I feel like because of who he is and what he's like. I don't know if you saw it, but he did it. He had an interview and he was saying he feels like a car that's been parked in the garage. He's not got that kind of mileage on him. He's kind of feels like more like a 24-year-old than a 28-year-old. You know, he's ready.
You don't think of him as that kind of age, do you? Because he went from doing really well at Swansea and getting the big move to Spurs at 22 to then literally disappearing until he turned up at Leeds.
Yeah,
like he basically hasn't had that 3-4 years in between. So he definitely has. I mean, unfortunately, and hopefully these kind of injuries don't take time off that, because they do catch up with you, these kind of injuries, unfortunately. Like, they're not massive in its isolation, but once they kind of carry on and whatnot. But he's got the best recovery he can have, and in the professional game, hopefully it's not going to be a huge problem. But ankles are a pain. They are a big pain.
Do you think it'll be kind of look similar to what finished at Sunderland then, in terms of 4 at the back? And
I think so. I think I would be stunned, and I think you agree with this. I think I'd be stunned to see Bornau or Ampadu start on the right of a back three. I mean, Bornau should be able to come in and do that. He should, but it's clear that he doesn't want to do that. If he did, he'd have brought Bornau on at the weekend, I think. Unless, like he said, he'd already thought about moving to the 4 at the back, which I don't believe that, but that's what he said. I think it'll be Biol and Strike. And to be fair, would you want to bring Bornau in for his starting debut in the league at Liverpool away? Probably not. No, and then can you sacrifice Ampadu out of the midfield to play him in a back three? I don't, because the thing is the 4-2-3-1 kind of turns into that anyway, right? Yeah. Like, Ampadu ends up floating into that back line anyway. So I just don't see it. Yeah, I don't see it.
No. Well, we'll brace ourselves. It was funny because it flashed up on the channel, our infamous Liverpool review when you were in a hotel room fighting fire alarms and we'd lost 6-0 or something. I think ridiculous. And we really were just like, it's just amusing to look at those streams because we were just in the pits then, and it was just like, can't get any worse. Can't get any worse.
The stream that night was a meme of what it was like to be a Leeds fan at the time, because I was in this hotel room. Where were I? We were up north somewhere. I think I was in Sunderland, and the fire alarm's going off in the background. And I'm like, what's going on out there? This fire alarm's going off, and I was like, oh, it's fine. We'll just ignore it. And it was literally like my Leeds United life was just burning around me, and I'm just ignoring it. It's like that meme that says "I'm fine" and all the fire's going off around him. That's exactly 6-0.
Oh God, yeah. Hopefully, we can put those days to bed. Though, a couple of positive results, we'll see. Do I want to be nasty and get you to make a prediction? Do we dare?
Well, for both, you want them for both?
Yeah, go on.
Okay, so I'm going to say that we will lose 2-1 against Liverpool. I just can't see how we take it into a 6th game undefeated away at Liverpool. They're on okay-ish form now. I think it'll be tight. I think we'll play well, but I think we'll probably just come out second best on that one. And I'm going to say that we're going to beat Manchester United 2-1.
Oof, love it. I'll take that now, I'll tell you. I'm going to go... I think it's going to be 3-1 to Liverpool. And I'm going to go for a draw at the weekend. I think 1-1.
I'm too excited to say draw, even though my head might be saying that. I love
it. I love it. Yeah, absolutely. I love the optimism, and I really hope it is. I really hope.
Just don't turn up and batter us. Just don't.
Oh, no. I am actually. I am actually watching it with a Man United fan.
Oh, I thought about having father-in-law over because he's a big Man United fan, and. I think I've gone against it now. I don't like watching games with other people at the best of times, let alone a United fan.
I know. So God knows what mood I'll be in by the time that stream comes.
Yeah.
Lovely. Well, we'll leave it there. So as I've said, me and Jay will be back for post-match reaction to both games, the Liverpool and the Man United game. So make sure you join us then. Thank you for all your comments. Please make sure you smash a like on the video and get subscribed to the channel. Myself and Jay, we will be back. Jay, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you, mate.
And we will catch you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.